眼前这位光头哥叫尚瑞，在美国有1000万粉丝。光头哥现在的流量密码就是中国。现在他正在采访一位太空行业的企业家，为了获得关注流量和投资，这位企业家又在贩卖中国焦虑了。光头哥似乎也掌握的流量密码就是不断提到中国，偷偷摸摸的跑到了月球背面去挖矿。这些年中国的强大确实给了这些自媒体博主贩卖焦虑的理由，也给了企业家通过贩卖中国恐惧来获取投资的机会。对于光头哥和企业家的言论，你怎么看？
Really alarming. I mean, who knows what they're doing over there? We
know
legitimately
we know they're mining. Okay, China is there on the moon, on the far side of the moon. They're mining helium-3.
We legitimately don't know what China is doing on the other side of the moon.
No, we don't. Yeah,
I'm getting real upset.
If China can cool their quantum computers with helium-3 before we can, the jig is up. This is part of the power of space. And this goes back to why truth and information is the most important element. It's back to Sun Tzu and the art of war. Know thy enemy, know thyself. And if you are deceived in your own arrogance, eventually you're going to be a dead man.
What is helium-3 energy?
Yeah. So, helium-3 is an element that doesn't get to Earth very much because our atmosphere and our gravitational field prevent it from landing on the Earth. So an ounce of helium-3 on the Earth is very, very expensive, and the business case doesn't really close. But on the moon or on the asteroids, there's a ton of helium-3. And so to give you an example of what it means, if we were to mine the moon for helium-3, we could, at the current level of electricity use in America, or not in America, in the globe, we could power the energy needs of the human race for thousands of years based on the helium-3 that's on the moon right now. And and so the twist there is China is there on the moon, on the far side of the moon. We don't know what they're doing because we don't have infrastructure up there to even see what's going on. But we do know they're mining helium-3. And so
we legitimately don't know what China is doing on the other side of the moon.
No, we don't. Because the other side of the moon, you know, most people may not know this, but you only see one side of the moon in the way that it rotates and orbits around the Earth. It's a very interesting phenomenon in orbital mechanics, but it's and so unless we have a constellation of satellites flying around the moon that can see and understand what's going on, we're blind. And that's one reason they're over there. But let me give you a commercial.
Get upset, Steve.
Yeah,
I'm getting real upset.
So this goes back to a strategy and why I'm in the space business, because space is the place where if America does not change our strategy and how we're investing in space, we will become victims to others that use space as a way of dominating the energy market, but also the information market. So here's an example. About a month ago, Microsoft announced their quantum computing capability, which is just next level and awesome. But they need to cool it down to 80 millikelvin, which basically is almost down to the point where the molecules don't even move. Okay. There's really no way to cool it efficiently down to that level. Hydrogen would only get you down to maybe 1 Kelvin. You need to go, much lower than that. Helium-3 can do it like that. So let's take the scenario where China now has enough helium-3 as they're mining it on the moon and bringing it back to Earth to be able to power the entire world for thousands of years. And they are the ones that can actually operationalize quantum, because they can cool it down to the temperature it needs to actually operate. Now, quantum sensing, quantum communication, when you start looking at and quantum computing, when you start combining those three quantum capabilities, sensing, computing, communication, and you can affordably cool it down to the levels where it can be operationalized. Now you've broken every code that ever was. I don't care how good your encryption is. They see every secret, every code, everything. From Bitcoin to, things like, the techniques of blockchain. Forget it. It's all going to change. And so there's an example of why not being in space with logistics and infrastructure to be able to move, to see, and to operate, can make you vulnerable.
How long has China been on the far side of the moon?
Well, it's been quite a while. You can look back. It's been at least 2 years. The problem here is in my view, it is that we do not have a sense of how dramatically things will change with these technologies that are in space. We build better satellites than anybody on the planet. Okay. We build better fighters, tanks, ships, submarines. We build really cool stuff, better than anybody else in the world in many cases. There are exceptions, of course, but what beats good technology is a superior strategy. So China may not, they may be a fast follower where they look a lot like our F-22 in their fighters. They look a lot like Elon Musk's, rocket ships. They may be a fast follower, but they aren't interested in making better technology. They are building a strategy of logistics and infrastructure in space that will change the game for the energy and information market on Earth. And we are on a strategy that builds better satellites to do the same things we've done before. And there are efforts to do these other things, but it's not fueled by the kind of money to operationalize it and really compete. This is why, strategy eats technology for lunch.
Man, this is really alarming. I mean, who knows what they're doing over there? We know
we know they're mining. Okay, we know they're bringing back because we can see what they're bringing back, and this is all open source. We can, in open source, you can see some of the things that China's doing, and so we have evidence of some of the things they're doing, but we don't know the extent. And that's part of the problem. And this goes back to why truth and information is the most important element, because, it's back to Sun Tzu and the art of war. Know thy enemy, know thyself. And if you are deceived in your own arrogance and your own dominance of the past, that what you did in the past is sufficient to win in the future, eventually you're going to be a dead man. And if you do not know your enemy well enough, not just on the technical side, but the cultural side. And this is why having been raised in Africa has been very valuable for me, because being raised in a tribe with no American influence and then coming here at the age of 10 and then being immersed in Los Angeles, where my dad was the pastor of a church, gave me a lens at this cultural misunderstanding and how we talk past each other. And it's been very valuable, like in the military. The Army talks past the Air Force, talks past the Navy, talks past Special Forces, talks past the Coast Guard. And to be able to see that and help people connect where they're actually talking to one another and listening to one another is key. But the same is happening here with technologies and China. We, as an American society, tend to just believe our own press and think that our way of thinking is dominant. And it has worked. But if we don't understand China's cultural mindset, we could end up being a victim to it. Now, it's really important here to state two facts. One, the Chinese people are beautiful. The Russian people are beautiful. People in every culture are just beautiful people. But whenever you are under a governance rule set that steals away freedom, steals away freedom of choice, which is something I believe has been planted in the hearts of every human being, and the Bible tells us, and God is clear, free choice, free will. This is how we know whether you're good or bad. If you have no freedom, I don't know if your heart is good or is bad, because you don't make any choices. You're being forced to make choices that, and so when I see systems like communism, socialism, that have a historical precedence rooted in human nature of murdering its own people in order to maintain control and taking away personal freedom. This is why we have to be so careful, and why what you're doing is at the core of our survival as a nation, because free will is predicated on understanding truth. You got to know what's going on in your strategic environment, or again, you're not free. You're making a decision that has been shaped in your brain by somebody that's trying to get you to do something in their interest, and you're actually doing something counter to your own self-interest. So in order to understand what China is doing, what Russia is doing, and what is going on in the world, we have to be able to understand truth. And truth has been morphed and mutated. In fact, the information domain is now a battle space. We used to believe the TV. And when we found out the TV was lying to us and our government was lying to us, then social media and this new technology came about, and we're like, starting to rush there. How do I triangulate truth here? And now we see that liars and storytellers that are trying to get us to believe something that is not true have infiltrated the social media and even the podcast world. So I say we're like teenagers in this information age, and we still don't have the tools to triangulate truth quickly enough to be able to not make mistakes and drive ourselves off our own cliff. And so our society is in a very vulnerable place right now, where we're trying to hunt. And this is why you're so valuable, because you are taking the time to talk to multiple people to understand where the truth lies. And it's incredibly important.
Thank you. I can't get my mind off of China being on the other side of the moon for years, and we have not sent anything up there. I mean, how does that just slide past a president's desk? Hey, we got China over here, our biggest adversary, biggest potential adversary. We might want to take a look at this.
Well, this president, President Trump, understands this.
He does.
He does.
Well, that's good.
And in fact, he understood it in his first term. And this is why he was willing to put up with the ridicule, sarcasm, and humiliation that came with saying, we are going to create a space force. That space force, when we look back 300 years from now, the legislation that President Trump championed to get a space force written into law will be the wedge in history that protects America. Without that, now, even though the last 4 years, the government, the executive branch, has not allowed the Space Force to build what it needs to protect us. So they kind of went into idle as soon as President Trump came into office. He's going to put that into full afterburner. If China can cool their quantum computers with helium-3 before we can, the jig is up. This is part of the power of space, translated into something tangible and operational called quantum. So that's quantum computing.